We're seeing a massive spike in bogus medical negligence claims. It's cost the state billions of rands. There are many players in the supply chain here. In the latest scam, a group of lawyers fleeced the Department of Health by claiming damages for kids born with cerebral palsy. Tonight we talk to the Health Minister, Aaron Motsoaledi, in our Cape Town studio, and Trudy Nichols of the Legal Practices Council, which regulates the legal profession, in our Durban studio about this problem. Dr. Motsoaledi, I mean, the fact that the Health Department has been directly targeted, tell us what you know about this.
Hello, Jane. I can hear you, but I'm losing some words, you know.
All right. I wanted to ask you about these claims that have affected the Department of Health, these bogus claims, and what you know about it.
The medical legal claims, yes, we know that there's an epidemic of claims in the healthcare system, lots of them, and it's not only in the public healthcare system, but also in the private healthcare system. There is a jump of claims in terms of the amounts and in terms of the number of claims that are being submitted.
Tell us a little bit more how they work and what sort of figures are we looking at here?
Just come again, Jane.
Tell us a little bit more about how these scams work, the players that are involved here, and what sort of figures are we looking at?
Well, if I'm hearing you very well, I'm saying the claims are you know, in terms of the amounts and the numbers, they are increasing at a very fast pace. That's why I call it an epidemic. But we have discovered that some of them are outright fraudulent. I'm sure you will have heard that a month ago, a lawyer in the Eastern Cape, which has got the highest number of claims and the highest amount, a lawyer has been arrested who submitted lots of claims. Just 6 of them were worth 90 million rand, and they were found to be completely fraudulent, whereby they were claiming for children who don't exist. They were claiming for children who are supposed to be having cerebral palsy, but when the SIU investigated, they found them in normal schools, and the teachers even signed affidavits that these are completely normal children. There's no cerebral palsy here. They also claimed for children who were not born in a particular hospital, but they lodged a claim in that hospital when actually the child was born at home. And some of the plaintiffs, meaning the parents of those children, are not even aware that there's been a claim submitted in their name. When they were asked how they gave the power of attorney, they say this gentleman or whoever visited them came and said, "We from SASSA, please fill up this form. We want to apply for child support grant for your child." And they signed the form innocently, only to find that 15 million rand is going to be claimed for that child claiming that there's cerebral palsy. Very clearly, if the money comes, that family will never receive that money because they only know that they filled the form for SASSA. So that's what is going on, and we are trying our best to resolve that.
Trudy Nichols, what do you know about this cerebral palsy case and the players that are involved and the fact that lawyers seem to be behind it?
Firstly, Jane, I think it's a bit of a sweeping statement to make the allegation that there is a plethora of false and fraudulent claims in relation to cerebral palsy medical negligence claims, and that it's lawyers who are at the forefront of these claims. I don't think you can just make that statement. I think you have to ask a number of questions first before drawing that conclusion. We've just heard the Minister confirming that. No, what the Minister is talking about is one isolated incident in the Eastern Cape involving, my understanding, is one particular firm of attorneys, and there are allegations against that firm of attorneys in relation to alleged fraud. But that criminal trial hasn't been finalized, so that matter is sub judice. So until that attorney and the all the attorneys within that firm have been found guilty of fraud and submitting fraudulent medical negligence claims, we can't make that statement that that attorney has been found guilty of fraud. I mean, that is preempting what that court is going to find. So unless there are actual cases of attorneys who have been found guilty in the criminal courts of having lodged numerous fraudulent medical negligence claims involving children with cerebral palsy, then it's a bit premature to make the sweeping statement that there are so many unscrupulous attorneys involved with cerebral palsy claims.
Okay, let's take a look. Let me just jump in here quickly to take a look at the medical negligence scams that are out there. We know that the accusations that some lawyers are making false medical negligence claims for those cerebral palsy kids. One lawyer alone made 6 fraudulent claims worth 90 million rand. A prominent attorney arrested in Mthatha for false claims of more than 100 million rand. Some state attorneys settling weak medical negligence cases or deliberately losing cases. And the bulk of the 17 million rand in medical negligence claims in Eastern Cape last year were false. So, Trudy Nichols, I mean, it seems that a lot of people are involved in these fraudulent claims. What is behind the problem here? I mean, where are the loopholes that make it seem so easy?
Well, let's start with the actual claim itself. So we're dealing with medical negligence claims, meaning that you actually have to have a claimant to start off with. And in the context of cerebral palsy, we're dealing with a child who is possibly at a hospital that was born, so there has to be some medical records. So if there is a plethora of false medical claims in relation to cerebral palsy, then possibly the problem stems from the fact that there is not proper or effective or efficient record keeping in the context of the department itself. And in terms of statute, the departments are obliged to keep proper records. So that's where it starts. So I think before we can start pointing fingers at the attorneys and the lawyers who are lodging claims on behalf of individuals, we need to look at it contextually. So contextually of the many claims, and the department will have these stats. So the department will know how many claims have been lodged against them. They will know how many of those claims are in relation to cerebral palsy, and they will also know of those claims how many have been successfully prosecuted against the department, meaning that those claims are valid claims for cerebral palsy. So if that is the case, and there's more valid claims than fraudulent claims, then the problem is not the attorneys representing the claimants. The problem is the poor health service in the department. And that is where...
Okay, let me just bring in the minister here. I mean, who's ever behind it, it's obviously having a dramatic impact on the health department. And Dr. Matsoaledi, tell us how this is affecting operations there and how that money could be better spent.
Well, Jane, I think you must allow me to respond first. Unfortunately, I'm at a disadvantage. I'm really struggling to hear.
Sorry
but the little I've heard is that the Mthatha incident is isolated. I need to respond to that. There are 6 more cases where arrests are imminent. Not only that one, the arrests are imminent. There are other cases where when they've heard that the SIU is investigating, they started withdrawing their claims. At least there are 45 million rand claims, which have just been withdrawn. In Limpopo, there was a lawyer who was found to have claimed 70 million rand for a botched circumcision. And when we investigated, that circumcision never existed. It was never done. But 70 million rand was claimed. When we questioned and said, please bring the patient here, we want to examine that patient, the claim was withdrawn immediately. There was another case where there was a claim for 25 million rand for cerebral palsy. We demanded that the child be brought here, was already a 19-year-old person, because some of these claims are stretching back 25 years ago. When the person came, took that person to a professor of neurosurgery at Steve Biko Academic Hospital, and the diagnosis was there is no cerebral palsy here at all. So
okay,
I agree.
Dr. Matsoaledi, I'm going to jump in here because we're running out of time. Thank you for highlighting how many cases there are. Trudy Nichols, I mean, what can be done now to to take these people to book, to make them pay for the damage that they've caused. What's the next step?
Well, we have done two things. Firstly, the SIU
go ahead, Trudy
is
Nichols.
going to go on and yes, the SIU is going to investigate the number of...
Okay, no, I want to move on from the attorneys. I've heard your viewpoint, if you don't mind. I'm just wondering what the next stage should be.
In relation to?
I mean, where to from here? Because we've got these charges, we've got massive fraud happening within the country. It seems that there are a multitude of loopholes. So I'm just wondering what sort of legal structure should be in place to put a stop to this.
In actual fact, there aren't that many loopholes, because if during the course of litigation, in any medical negligence claim, if the proper course of litigation is followed when the state attorney is representing the department, and that proper course is that the minute a claim is lodged, the state attorney appoints its own medical experts to examine the claimant, then at that stage they will ascertain whether or not the claim is fraudulent or not by having an interview with the claimant themselves and by accessing that claimant's medical records. So from an early stage you'll be able to ascertain the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, and whether or not those claims are fraudulent or not. The fact that some attorneys, and it appears to be few and far between, have managed to submit fraudulent claims is because the state itself has been lax in the manner in which it has defended these claims and the manner in which it has litigated the defence of these claims.
All right, thank you for that, Trudy Nichols and Dr. Matsuledi. Still ahead, 15 years later, the NPA admits it should have charged Jacob Zuma with corruption. I speak to one of the men who helped get him elected to the highest office in the land.